I mean, being a chair, what have you learned about chairing, boards, especially during difficult moments? Well, how do you, how do you guide a board chair who is chairing through difficult moments or difficult times? Or sometimes, especially like in government, you find sometimes there's maybe there's a minister, then there are other powers that be, and sometimes even have counter interests to the minister. Basically, there's so many stakeholders. How do you steer through that kind of storm?
I mean, there's no script for that. Again, you have to lead by intuition. Okay, you must be able to read the situation. You must be able to understand the facts. And then one of the problems I found is people try to follow the rule book, but in some of the situations, the rule book doesn't apply. The bureaucratic rule book doesn't apply. So how do you satisfy? How do you create a situation whereby those who feel that things should be a bit different have a win, and those things think another way should also have a win. So how do you create a win-win situation? That's why I talked about compromise. That's why I talked about discussions, caucusing with other people, and explaining the implications of the different situations. It's never easy. It's never easy because, look, human beings are human beings. I think somebody said, if you want to know the true character of a person, you give them one of two things. Either you give them money or you give them power. Okay, then you will really know. You will really know who Sejjaaka is, or who Chamu is. And we've seen that in motion, isn't it? So sometimes you'll never know how things are going to pan out. But always, I guess, one must think about a legacy. That under the circumstances, is it better for me to have a one-off or create a legacy? And I think people who have built their countries have had to have some kind of selflessness. So if you are in charge of a national asset, if you are in charge of a big company, that's when your leadership acumen should come to the top, that I'm doing this for posterity. And that does not mean I should not be well off because I'm doing this. But there's only so much that you can enjoy. I mean, you just had the other day, I told you I grew up in Entebbe. And how does somebody come and say, Mr. XYZ, you can have 150 acres of this? How do they even start thinking like that? Isn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, some of these things, I am not in that space now, but they puzzle me. How do they happen? Because am I thinking about myself, or am I thinking about the country? Am I thinking about my children? Am I thinking about the environment? So how did they arrive at that kind of decision? So those are the things that challenge us as leaders. Now, I am not saying I am better than those people who made that decision. But one must understand, how did they arrive at that decision? And these are the questions that challenge us as leaders. I don't have the right answers, but to each his own. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I remember what Minister Mao used to say. I mean, the old Mao, not the new one. That
yes.
A thief who has had not an opportunity to steal yet prefers to think of themselves as good people.
As good people.
It's until you actually have an opportunity to steal and you actually don't steal that you can actually start
to speak exactly. And that's what I've said by saying that, look, you can't know a man's character until you expose them to power and money. So there's no sense in which I want to imply that I'm better than Mao or anybody else. I am simply saying, I think nations are built through sacrifice. Okay, nations are built through sacrifice. I've just been thinking about the late Raila Odinga and the kinds of compromises he's had to make. He is a man who could have caused a lot of trouble for his country. But by not being president, he still practiced a lot of leadership to try and keep that country together. So even for us, these are people we can look at and say these are examples of what we ought to do. What should we do for our country, Uganda? Okay? And definitely we have a lot of problems. But if as leaders we only think about ourselves, then we have a problem. And I guess that's the ultimate test of leadership.